Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into a pretty interesting legal fight today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a case against the Samourai Wallet co-founders. You might remember they were charged earlier this year.
Yeah, conspiracy charges, right? Operating an unlicensed money transmitting business and money laundering.
Exactly. And they've pleaded not guilty,
Mm-hmm.
but now there's this, whole side dispute brewing.
About evidence, yeah. Specifically communications with FinCEN.
That's it, FinCEN, the Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So our mission for this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
let's unpack this disagreement. What's the real issue with this FinCEN guidance?
Okay, so the defense is basically saying, hold on a second. They claim the prosecutors waited too long to tell them something pretty important.
Which is?
That about 6 months before the charges even dropped, FinCEN apparently gave some indication that Samourai might not actually be a money services business, an MSB.
And if you're not an MSB, you don't need the license they're being charged for not having. Is that the logic?
That's exactly the defense's point. They're saying, look, this came up in a conversation the prosecution had with FinCEN reps. They argue this means the founders couldn't possibly be prosecuted for not having that license.
So they wanted a hearing about this delay, about the timing.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But the prosecution, they're pushing back.
Oh, yeah, strongly. They sent a letter, I think it was May 9th, to the court in Manhattan.
I mean, what did it say?
They insist they shared all known substantive communications about Samourai with FinCEN months ago, well before any trial stuff needed to happen.
So, plenty of time, they argue. 7 months before the trial for the defense to use this info.
That's their position. No harm, no foul on the timing.
Okay, let's dig into that actual conversation,
Yeah.
the one back in August 2023. What was actually said? Because this seems key.
It really does, and it's nuanced, as these things often are. According to an email summary from the prosecutor about the talk, FinCEN folks apparently noted that since Samourai doesn't take custody of user crypto, it's non-custodial.
Right. Users hold their own keys.
Exactly. That detail would strongly suggest that Samourai is not acting as an MSB. Seems pretty clear, right?
Strongly suggest, yeah. That sounds like a big deal for the defense.
Oh.
But I sense a but coming.
There's always a but. Look, the people who said this, Kevin O'Connor, who heads FinCEN's virtual assets section, and Lorena Valente from policy, they said this during an informal conversation.
Informal.
And they apparently added a big caveat. They said they, quote, did not have a sense of what FinCEN would decide if this question were presented to their FinCEN policy committee.
So it was their personal informal take, not an official FinCEN ruling.
Precisely. The prosecution is hammering that point. These were individual, informal, and caveated opinions, not binding policy.
So the prosecution says don't read too much into this informal chat, while the defense says, no, this informal guidance shows our clients reasonably believe they were compliant.
That's the tug of war right there. How much weight do you give informal regulatory feedback, especially in a new space like crypto mixing?
Right. And wasn't there something else the defense tried? A memo?
Yeah, they tried to bring up a memo from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche.
What was that about?
Well, it apparently stated that the DOJ wouldn't prosecute crypto mixers for, accidental rule violations, unwitting violations of regulations, I think is the phrase.
Okay, so the defense thought maybe that could help get the case tossed.
That seems to have been the hope, but the prosecution shot that down, too.
How?
They pointed out the memo itself says it can't be used to create any rights or benefits against the government. It's internal guidance, basically, not a get-out-of-jail-free card for Samourai.
Got it. So that argument didn't really go anywhere.
Doesn't seem like it. The focus comes right back to that FinCEN conversation.
So wrapping this up, the core issue is really about interpretation and timing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Was that FinCEN chat a meaningful signal, even if informal, or just off-the-cuff remarks? And did the disclosure timing actually disadvantage the defense?
Yeah, and it really highlights this ongoing problem, trying to fit new tech like crypto mixers into old financial rules. It's messy.
Super messy.
Yeah.
Leads to these kinds of disputes where regulators and innovators just see things differently.
It definitely leaves you with a thought. If a regulator gives informal guidance, even caveated guidance suggesting you don't need a license, what responsibility does the government have if it then prosecutes you for not having one?
That's a tough question, especially for people trying to innovate in these gray areas. Definitely something to think about.